Energy. The world is run by energy, from kinetic, solar to thermal, especially the societies we have built today. Because of further improvements in technology, our societies now are becoming more reliant on technology. Almost everything nowadays are digital or is run by machine or enhanced by technology. Our way of communication, light in our homes, the phones that we use every day, the industries that manufactures the commodities that we take for granted today, all run on one thing: electricity. Now, where does this energy come from? According to Education, 81% of global energy came from the burning of fossil fuel. And according to an article from Visual Capitalist by Eamon Ghosh, the biggest contributors to this is China on 27% and the US on 14.6% in 2017, while the rest of the world, including the Philippines, is around 15.8%. The burning of fossil fuel, which generates greenhouse gases, is the biggest contributor to climate change. Now, with the increased reliance of the world with technology and electricity to run it, the energy sector in the Philippines is much to blame as its reliance on burning fossil fuel to reach the demand of the private sector. On the statistics published by the Philippine Department of Energy, the entire country consumes around 99,750 gigawatts per hour, which around 75% was generated from fossil fuel, while the rest of it was generated through renewable sources of energy. Now, we have asked an expert to see his view on the subject matter of renewable energy source in the Philippines.
Really, ang encouragement kasi at this time is we go for renewable sources. So, ano yung renewable sources? So, actually hydro is part of that. Ginagamit naman na natin yun. Pero among the emerging technologies ngayon is part of that is wind and also solar. So, yun, siguro any of these alternatives. All of these renewables kasi may good points and bad points, may downsides din. What's good about solar here in the Philippines is mainit ang climate natin dito. But then again, ang isang downside naman ng solar is sa gabi. So yung mga solar power plants dito, for it to work, kailangan nila ng kailangan nilang merong mapaglalagyan. So there needs to be a battery system together with solar power plants. So that's one thing. Hydro, since marami naman tayong sources dito, is also good. Siguro, yun, second best. Geothermal, also, nakalimutan ko i-mention kanina, that's also a good source. Just marami naman tayong geothermal plants dito. The main setback kasi is if you consider yung mga existing sources natin ngayon, yung coal kasi established na yan for many years, many decades. So I think the apprehension in venturing into new energy sources would be yung cost in establishing yung new power plants. So say for example, if you're talking of solar power plants, you need a huge investment in terms of yung land area na paglalagyan niya. And at the same time, yung the initial investment that you need for investing in solar panels, in all those things. So, in the long run, it's cost competitive naman. Pero yung initial investment, malaki talaga. Kasi you're talking of major investments here.
Next question, sir. All of the things na sinabi niyo as an alternative source po, which is the thing, which is one of the best? Do you prefer?
Well, I think best would be solar dahil mainit nga tayo dito sa Pilipinas.
Sir, my last question for you is, how can we optimize our energy resources po?
For example, in your homes, syempre, si Meralco naman, di ba, nagbibigay naman siya ng tips on how you can manage your electricity well. Di ba, yung mga aircon natin should be nasa 25 degrees yung setting. We manage yung, for example, yung laundry and yung plancha natin, kung kailan lang natin gagawin. if we can minimize yung plancha to once a week, those kinds of things, ano. When it comes to siguro yung sa design ng bahay or sa design ng office, design ng building, part of yung energy management would be, for example, yung use of mga tints sa windows. So that's a good way to manage yung temperature ng bahay or ng office. If you're using tinted windows, you prevent a good amount of heat from coming in. So yung aircon mo does not have to work that hard. So yan.
Thank you po, sir.
Thank you po, sir.
Thank you po, sir, for your time po. Thank you po.
Okay?
In general, here in the Philippines, energy efficiency is not an issue of affordability, but the lack of support and the priority in alternative power sources. We rely more on fossil fuels rather than energy efficient power sources like hydro, wind, and solar power generators. By using this as an alternative, it helps reduce carbon emission dispense from factories, industries, and even vehicles that uses fossil fuel as a source of energy. We have the resources, but we lack action.
Now, my plan of action would be further marketing and introduction of the private sector to the solar industry. Because one of the things that Sir Joel mentioned was the lack of interest and investment to the industry. So I would say we need to put more ways to introduce this type of technology to the public sector. So there's more investment, and with more investment, that technology will be implemented and developed further so it can be integrated to our society.
So in my plan of action, alternating transportation from time to time to reduce carbon emission from vehicles. If I own a vehicle, I would think before I turn on the ignition. See if the destination requires a vehicle. If not, I would rather walk or use a bicycle to reduce the fossil fuels consumed by the jeeps, by the cars, etc. That's it.
Hydropower is fueled by water. It is a clean source of energy. This will help in the environment, especially right now since it will help reduce the use of carbon emissions and the use of charcoal. Next, it will help the community by helping control flood control, irrigation, and water supply.
So probably my plan of action will be more about the laws and regulation. Implementation of laws and regulations to curb waste of resources is important in the management of resources. Since these laws and regulations enlighten people to conserve resources for the future generation. Invoking heavy penalties to individuals who do not adhere to such rules would most likely make the people avoid waste of resources.